Hello, my name is Natalie Yeadon, and I'm one of the co-owners and managing directors for Impetus Digital. We have actually collated and built some of the best-in-class asynchronous and synchronous collaboration tools in the Impetus Insight platform that allows life science companies to have courageous conversations, collaboration opportunities, and building and developing new innovations and creative outputs with their customers, be it physicians, payers, patients, allied healthcare providers, and other interested stakeholders. And this is a really important time for consideration of using these digital platforms, especially during this COVID-19 pandemic, during no-fly moratoriums, and also post-COVID in an environment and in a world where we're being so much more conscientious about physical distancing, about contact, and about how virtual and digital are going to be displacing a lot of the things that we're thinking and doing moving forward in the pharmaceutical, medical device, and biotech space. And one of the things I'm thinking about specifically today is around clinical trials. One of the things I think has really hit very fast and very hard with a lot of manufacturers, a lot of sponsors, a lot of clinical research organizations scrambling is that clinical trials have had somewhat of a rude disruption and a curbing in being able to do recruitment and allowing patients to come into centers to be able to report on their outcomes and their data. And as we all know, clinical studies are extremely expensive. They're one of the reasons why pharmaceutical drugs are as expensive as they are, going through these phase 2, phase 3 studies, trying to collect real-world evidence. And as we're going through this process with the COVID-19 and suddenly people are not able to do these reporting, what are sponsors and what are companies supposed to do? And we're finding that a lot of companies are sort of, as I was mentioning, scrambling to try to divert and change what they're doing. One of the very first things that we're looking at in this first phase of disruption is being able to utilize new analytics dashboards. So being able to utilize things like wearable technologies, things that patients already have on them or in their home, be it Aura rings, or be it, a Fitbit, or some sort of a heart monitor, or other things that actually can get shipped to them that are being used by, and delivered by pharmaceutical companies, be it diabetes kits, or a whole slew of other ways to actually input. They could be online platforms that are HIPAA compliant that patients can actually submit their data and do that virtually. So this is actually something that I know a lot of companies are scrambling to do right now, of finding some of these platforms, finding these vendors, being able to replace the traditional ways of having on-site visits or CROs or other people visiting patients to do this because of the physical distancing that's required at current time. So that's actually the first phase of potential opportunity and disruption. And so this is a great opportunity, especially if you don't have to change the clinical endpoints to the studies that you're doing. You can do a quick pivot in being able to find new methodologies for collection. The only issue comes down to if the endpoints can't be collected using a wearable or another analytics platform for immediate data entry by a patient or caregiver or healthcare provider. And in those situations, the clinical study endpoints need to be modified in order for the study not to be completely halted or stopped, especially if there's been a large investment in it and you're close to the end of the study, or you just need to keep moving forward with it. And in those situations, you need to get in front of an investigator-sponsored or investigator review board again, or there has to be a protocol amendment made before it goes there, or you may in fact want to completely review the clinical study and come up with something else and go through a study feasibility with different affiliates and potentially even with new sites that you've never considered before in the traditional way, who may have some innovative technology-based mechanisms to be able to do data collection. With all of those different opportunities, Impetus Digital has a great platform with our Impetus Insight Annotator tool and our discussion insight exchange tools and a whole variety of asynchronous tools, as well as being able to get people in a synchronous virtual meeting, a series of touch points and what we call a longitudinal expert engagement plan. and being able to have various touch points along the scope of developing and redeveloping amendments, protocols, investigator check-ins, to be able to reorient yourself as the sponsor, the clinical research organization, or one of the many vendors along that continuum of the clinical research study, to be able to shift, pivot, and reinitiate the clinical study in a much more enhanced digital way. We are here to help you get in front and center to be able to change and make those modifications to protocols, and perhaps even connect with some new investigator trial sites, and to be able to have investigator check-ins using the Impetus Insight platform. So please contact us if you are looking for any assistance. The details are going to be listed below with our LinkedIn profile, our company email, and our company website, and also how to get in touch with me. Happy to speak to you about that. Just in terms of disruption in general, after we actually get through this process, some other things to start thinking about is how companies are eventually going to start completely looking at clinical trials in a different way. You're going to be looking at things like clinical trials being done in silico. Eventually, we may be replacing the way we even look at studies and how we do clinical studies, and how we quickly can pivot. We're also going to be looking at disruption on potentially replacing some of the things that we're currently seeing with CROs, with other kinds of vendors. Is we may even eventually see patients cloistering together themselves when we have new digital technologies, new platforms, new wearables, new analytics dashboards that they can access themselves, potentially using crypto or blockchain, where they're going to own their data. They're going to get together with other patients with similar cases and issues, and be able to go and analyze their data themselves, so creating their own clinical studies. Trials in situ or in silico, where they're all going to be done through machine learning and quantum computing, IBM Watson, etc., where patients may not even need to be used, or they can be used in concert and actually to be used to augment the real world information that are going to be done through these cloistered groups. And eventually these cloistered groups could potentially even start putting together their own insurance policies based on their health status and where they kind of fit into it. So the opportunities are endless around where things are going to head in the future. And we're talking about way projection in the future around clinical studies. But today we just need to focus on what we need to, which is the clinical studies that we're currently doing. How can we pivot and shift very quickly? We're here to help, and we'd love to actually hear from you. Thank you so much. And until next time, my friends, be courageous.